Hey designer, Alex here, welcome to the channel, and in this video we're going to create this awesome looking sign up form. As you can see, we're going to create this introductory animation, and then we're going to create these tappable points for first name, last name, and all of these are going to jump to the top and change the color and size. And finally we're going to create this error state for the password, because sometimes users can enter the password which already exists, or the password is not too strong, so they can always go back and enter the correct password which matches this website. Finally, we're going to create this checkbox and this hover state for our button. So let's get started. Okay, so here is the practice file for this video, and if you want to get this practice file, you can join my membership. Link is going to be down in the description below. Membership includes all of the practice files from this YouTube channel, including this one, my courses, digital design products, mentorship, and much more. So if you're interested, once again, link is going to be down in the description below. If not, you can simply follow along like this. So what I have right here is 1920 by 1080 artboard, and I also have this grid set up, 12 column grid with 60 gutter width, and I have all of these options right here. And to get started, what I'm going to do is simply put a background right here, and to do that I simply created this gradient background. I'm going to simply drag and drop it inside just to save myself a bit of time. Then I'm going to position it just behind my form. As I said, it contains just this simple gradient, and you can create a gradient however you want it to look like. Next we need to create the form background, and to do that I'm going to use a rectangle. I'm going to use the dimensions of, for example, 1644 with 967, let's say. And then let's see, I'm going to use this color for my background, and I'm going to include corner radius of 20, and let's see, position it in the center. Make sure it's inside of the form field itself. Call it form BG, like so. And then I'm going to include a border. Color can be white, but the opacity of the border itself can be somewhere around 5. And then what I'm going to do is jump in right here and include a background blur, like so. So for the amount I'm going to keep it 30, this is going to be 15, but the opacity can be 73%. So it's really opaque, and you can play around with it to show this background gradient however you want. But I found that in this case 73% is good enough, but let's keep it at 70 for example. And as I said, you can play around until you achieve the desired result. Now we have these blobs in the background, so let me drag it. This is blob bottom, this is blob top, and I'm going to position it somewhere around here. And you can rotate them, do with them whatever you want. For example, somewhere around here. And the key here is to cover this space behind our form background. And I'm going to take these blobs, position them in the background of our form, and you can see that now we have this nice blurred effect. And to get these blobs, you can go to blobmaker.app. Link is going to be down in the description. You can check it out, and you can paste your color right here. You can play around with all of these shapes. You can play to how many sides they have. You can click right here to get any kind of random shape. Click right here to download it as an SVG, and then you can drag and drop that SVG right inside of here. Now to get us started, what I'm going to do is drag in a few of these items which I created previously. So I have this glass, I have this one as well, and I have these cubes. So cube 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to roughly position them somewhere around here. And same thing with these glasses, so I'm going to make sure that they are roughly around here. Now, because I imagine this to be some kind of a cocktail party or a bar or something like that, and sign up form is to create your account so that you can order drinks, for example, or that you can book your space at the party or something like that. That's why I imagine these. Now these items were originally 3D, and I got them from Envato Elements, and you can play around with any one of these, and I can show you right here. This is my cocktail glass. So you can play around with all of these elements, and when you click on it, you have this view 360 degrees render. When you click it, it's going to take a second to load, and then once it loads, you can drag to rotate. You can click right here and choose an angle which you want. It's of course transparent, so you can play around with any kind of angle that you want, and then you can download it either as a PNG or as a PSD, and you can click download this angle, and this is the cocktail which I have chosen. So if I take it right here, this is the one, and I did the same with all of these ice cubes, which is fantastic because these ice cubes, if I show you, are fully transparent. So this is the one I used, and you can click view 360 degrees render as I showed you previously, and you can jump around and you can position it however you want, no matter which angle you download, either as a PNG or PSD. So you can download PNG like I did if you just wanted to place it inside, but you can download PSD if you want to change its color later and if you want to play around with it a little bit more. But basically, no matter which angle you want, you can click download this angle, then download this angle, and that's how I got all of these right here. Now that's basically it for our setup, and now let's move on to the form fields itself. So because this is a sign up form, you can create it to be contact form by extending some of these fields. For example, instead of your email, let's say your message, and then you can extend this field right here, or you can move your line down below. So basically all of these are set up exactly the same way. So when I click right here, you can see that we have a component with a clicked state. Default state is this one, clicked state is this one, and as I showed you previously, it's exactly the same for all of them. So if I launch my preview, click right here, as you can see, it's going to jump to the top, and it's going to do the same for all of these. But basically how all of this is set up, if I take you right here, so we have a first name, and we have a mask and a line. Inside of our mask, what I have is the name. So if I hide the first name just for a second, you can see that we have this mask. Basically, it's just a rectangle, and you can see that it extends right here in the second state, which is the clicked state. And this first name inside of the second state, inside of the clicked state, that is, it's going to jump to the top, and it's going to reduce in size to 16 points. In this case, and take this gray color, and as you can see now, mask is unveiled. And basically that's the setup for all of these fields, and I've done many tutorials here on the channel which are in-depth, which are longer, so you can take a look to learn how these masks work. And basically it's the same story for this, this and this, but for password, as you can see, we have default state, error, and clicked state. Great thing about this approach is you can see I only have one artboard. I don't have multiple artboards, but how to achieve that is by using tap points. So you can see if I turn on my grid back on and click right here to select my password, you can see this tap point takes almost 2 columns. This second tap point takes almost 3 columns. You can play around with them however you want. You can adjust them, make them wider, shorter, longer, doesn't really matter. And the whole point of a tap point is to have just one artboard. So everything happens in this single artboard. And as you can see, when I select my tap point, I don't have a fill color, I don't have a border color because I don't need them. I just need these tap points to be there just to guide me for my prototyping needs. So finally, in this first example, you can see we have default state, so it looks the same like all of these other ones, and we have tap point 1 and tap point 2. In the error state, what I have right here is text for the password, so all of these stars I painted red, so this is the red color, and I did the same for this bottom line right here. And finally, in the third state, click state, basically it looks exactly the same like all of these other ones, like this one for example. So how I achieve that, it's really quite simple. So if I take you to the default state and just show you the prototyping measurements. So in the last name, for example, if I take you to prototype, we have selected this entire form field, this entire input field for the first name, last name, and email. So it's exactly the same. Animation is trigger tap, type auto animate. Destination is clicked because you know we have default state and clicked for these three, and easing ease out 0.6 seconds. And once again, how that looks like, you can see right here. If you think that this is too fast, like this one, for example, you can change this easing and duration. So you can choose easy in out, so it eases into the animation and out of the animation, and it can also last longer, for example 1 second or 2 seconds or something like that. So it's really up to you to play around with all of these elements and to see what works for you. And in case of the password, what I did is I selected my tap point 1, and it's going to take me, so animation is exactly the same, it's going to take me to the error, but easing instead of ease out, it's bounce. So that's why you see that bounce animation right here. When you click, this password is going to bounce instead of ease out like it is right here, because it's an error. And finally we have tap point 2. Tap point 2 is going to take me to the clicked state. So the objective is next, when they are at the default state, when they click right here, it's going to show them the error. So in order to proceed, they have to fix that error. So they will click right here, it will bring them back, and then they can click right here to enter the correct password, and then they can move on with the sign up process itself. Finally, we have these two right here. So you can see that this is really straightforward. We have this, which is our checkbox, and if I take you to my design, what I did right there is I have this box 60 by 60, I have a checkbox with 0 opacity inside, and then I have a clicked state. If I open up the click state, you can see that we have fill color, our main blue color, without any border, and checkbox is just at 100%. If I take you to the animation, you can see it's the same. So tap, auto animate, clicked, ease out, and 0.4 seconds in this case, because I don't want it to be too long, and it's the same on both directions. So here and here, you can make it to be 0.68, 1 second, it's all up to you. And finally, I want to show you this button. As you can see, if I take you to my design, open it up, width is 366 in the default state, and on the hover state, if I open it up, as you can see, width is 336. So basically just 30 pixels shrinking in and out. And if I fire it up, but go back to my default state, hover, you can see how it works. So it just shrinks inside, text stays put, so it doesn't change at all. And basically all of these work like they should. Now finally, let's go ahead and move all of these inside of our form like so. And let's go ahead and animate it. So let's introduce that intro animation. So to do that, what I'm going to do is simply select this artboard. And what I need to do is just make one duplicate, because at the moment, sadly, time animations are not possible on a single artboard. And that's something I hope Adobe XD team fixes really soon, because I think it would be a massive help. So basically we are going to leave this to be our original and play around with this a little bit. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to select this blob, for example, move it roughly around here. This I'm going to move it roughly around here, so it's still inside of our artboard a little bit. I can do the same with this one, just move it out like so. Then I can jump in right here, move these two out, and I can even rotate them like so. For example, move this a little bit up and rotate it a little bit more like this. And then same story for the cubes, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to move this bottom one all the way out, this around here, this around here. And that's basically how I'm going to set this up. Now, in terms of our text and all of our elements, I'm going to move them 40 pixels up, for example, and reduce the opacity to 0 by double clicking my 0 key on my keyboard. Do the same for my form fields and do the same for this checkbox and text. Reduce them, reduce this one. And finally, for the form background as well, I'm going to reduce it in size by holding Shift, Alt and left click, and I'm going to lower it down to, for example, 20% or so. And that's basically it. The last thing, go to the prototype, click right here, drag this blue handle of the entire artboard. Instead of tap, we're going to use time. For the delay, I'm going to use 2 seconds because I need to fire this up and prepare it so you guys can see it. Transition is going to be auto animate. We're going to use ease out and 3 seconds, for example, for the duration. So when I fire this up, enlarge it, you can see how all of this works and how it looks like. And finally, all of these form fields work exactly as they should. So once again, tap point 1, click right here, tap point 2, it's going to show the correct one, and finally this hover state works just fine. So that's it for this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe to this channel because I upload new videos every single week on Adobe XD, passive income techniques, design tips, motivation, and much more. So if you like content like that and you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe, and until next time, take care.